Yeah.
I mean, what do I do? What do I do? If I don't turn up, then I get trolled. If I'm
No,
turning
why
up with
don't
a,
you log out and log in?
I've
The
done it
other thing,
literally five
other thing that
times.
we can do is basically, you know,
Keep a
you click on
photograph there.
the link itself, so you will appear as somebody else, and that black thing also will be there.
What is this?
Okay. I don't think that works, but let me try
Of
it.
course, it works. You click on it.
I think we're live. I'm
We are live.
eating.
Yes.
I'm eating. I know I'm going to be trolled, but I can't help it. I can't see Advaita. It's all dark. I don't know where Sandeep is. Professor, as usual, thinking his jokes are funny. And I don't know where Jay is.
Oh, you're right.
Hmm. Okay. Do one thing. हाँ ठीक है. No, unmute yourself. पहला वाला को mute करो और इसको unmute करो.
No, then there's an echo.
अरे यार, you have
Okay,
to.
now can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear
But
you.
there's an echo. But there's an echo.
I don't know which is better. Her not being seen or she being seen with an horrible echo. Professor, if you want to laugh, please laugh. But this show is 1 minute 47.
Okay,
let
it
me see.
it doesn't matter if I can be seen or not. It really doesn't make a difference. The topic is more important. You all are
Okay.
so superficial that you're just obsessed with, oh, we can't see you, but you can hear me fine. So
Yeah,
let's
we
get it
could.
on. And
Yeah, sure.
Jay is late as usual, so I will message him as soon as we're
अच्छा
done.
lawyers इतने late कैसे हो सकते हैं यार? Lawyers and professors को late कैसे होता है? Both of them are
I am
Professor,
never ever late. Never ever late.
Also, let me tell you, I have a very poor opinion about men increasingly. But anyway, we'll talk about that some other day.
I don't think any of our viewers are interested in your opinion on men.
Yeah, yeah. Bloody great greedy guts.
What did he say?
I told her, Pallavi Ghosh, great greedy guts.
Great greedy guts. Okay. I sent
अभी
Jay
खा
a
रही है.
message.
हाँ.
I sent Jay a message. Okay. So let's start. Professor,
Okay.
I'm going to start with you because you came
Sure.
on time.
Hmm.
Professor, what do you make of this particular situation? Okay, let's be clear. The language is really foul, okay, on that video, and it is offensive. There is
Yeah.
there's no stating it in any other way.
Right.
And when you see other videos of this young lady as well, she does tend to speak in very foul language. Okay,
Right. She does,
that
yes.
is also undeniable. Okay, so
Undeniable.
let's just put that out first. And that kind of language, etc. Oh, finally, our VIP is here.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I had to take Henry for his walk, and there's been a
No,
terrible storm.
don't use the Henry
So-
excuse. This Henry is excuse being used by many people.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Does Henry know we're discussing Bengal today? Is that why he decided to go for a walk?
I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares.
Okay.
Good to see you all, though, and thank you. Thank you for
You're
having me,
welcome.
Advaita.
Jay, you can't say this. This CU is not applying to Advaita for some reason. Her thing is not working, so we can hear her. And
Good to
can't
hear
see
you all. Yeah, I can't see her though. That's odd.
None of us
मेरी
can.
आवाज काफी है.
हाँ.
See, Advaita Kala, so I'm Kala today.
Yeah.
But let's.
That was such a sick joke, actually.
I know it is really pathetic, but what can I do?
Okay, let's start.
Okay, proceed now.
Okay, so Professor, this young girl, 19 years old, probably just out of school, year or two, on social media, we see young people do stupid things all the time in life on social media, but we must also not infantilize her because that's also not helpful to the particular situation. So I just want to I'm very clear. I don't think anybody should go to jail for this kind of conversation, offensive as it is. Jail is not the place for it, and there have to be other remedial measures that don't involve this kind of incarceration. But since you're a professor and you engage a lot with kids of this age, this 18, 19, 20 demographic, I want to approach this a little differently. I want to understand why someone like her would go online and post something like that and use the kind of language that she was using, and now really ending up in this sort of mess.
Okay, so I have, as you say, I teach kids of this particular age, and there are times where I have seen these kinds of exchanges. So, what happens is the following: somebody will say something offensive about your religion, and you say something offensive about that particular person's religion, and say, see, since he offended my religion, I offended, I basically made a disparaging remark about his religion, which is absolutely no excuse at all. But the thing is, at least in where I teach, this has been, it's been restricted to WhatsApp message groups. The other thing is, hardly anybody reports these quarrels outside. In this case, too, look, the person who started to really rake this up was Varis Pathan. Varis Pathan does not teach in that particular school. It is not one of the students who reported her to the authorities. It is an MLA or a
No,
politician
she
of
put it up
Maharashtra.
in a platform, no, Professor.
It is.
It was.
Look. Okay, so let me tell you, some of these exchanges have also appeared on Facebook, where I'm concerned. Offensive things have been said on Facebook, but nobody really took them up. People recognize that these are young people exchanging views among themselves, and it is quite possible that some of them will go overboard. It is pointless to take somebody to court or put somebody to jail. More so, if you want it to be even handed, you want to be even handed, because it's not just one person who basically crosses the limit. There are several who cross the limit, and in this case, the authorities, one of the things that Karthi Chidambaram tweeted about struck me. Absurd thing about the West Bengal police coming to Maharashtra and then going to Gurgaon to arrest this particular person. Is there any consistency in this? For example, a person who now is an MP, she represents Jadavpur. She came out with a very vulgar and obscene tweet about a shivling. If you were to apply the law consistently to everybody, she should have been in jail long ago. Indeed, who do you pick up? You pick up a particular student, a foolish student at that, who's made intemperate remarks. She apologized for these particular remarks because the aim is to send a signal, not just to the student community. The aim is to send a signal that, you say certain things, no matter how badly you are provoked, we will deal with you. And that is something I think we have to watch out against. Number of things happening out here. Police crossing borderlines to arrest people on something that is relatively minor. She apologized, she took down the tweet. The other is also to send a remark that, our behavior and our actions will not be consistent. When it comes to one set of remarks, we will do nothing. But when it comes to another set of remarks, we will do something. And this does not bode well, I think, for the future. Advaita is on the mute. I think she's now sleeping, taking advantage of the fact that her thing is not working.
See, just to carry on before Advaita joins in, I did mention this, and I saw one or two tweets of those people who are basically on the payroll, and we know who we were talking about,
Yeah.
Professor. We were talking about them yesterday. Very bullshit argument ki court ne bola. Then this argument extends to just about anybody, and it's not just about Sharmistha. I'm against. Yes, we all need to draw a line on social media. There's a tendency amongst many of us, not people like me, but many people, on the social media who just use it. Either they want to get the eyeballs, because who knew who Sharmistha Panoli was? At least she'll get that attention. The same thing was applied in the case of Sanjay Rana and all these people, though of course they were already very famous and happening. But there's a lot of young people who either don't even understand the social media rules, that there are certain do's and don'ts. There are certain lines you just cannot cross. And it's
Right.
not just about Muslim or Hindu religion. You just cannot hurt their religious sentiments of just
Absolutely.
about anybody. And I don't know. I mean, Jay would be a better one at that. I mean, is sending to jail the answer and the solution? Because, sending to jail also has its own mind ramifications. I mean, I don't know what she's going to be going through, so on and so forth. But I don't know. Do we have a rule in place? Or
Okay.
is there something more which can be done? I mean, Jay would be a
Okay.
good one to answer that. Yeah.
Before Jay comes in, since I am in a university, generally what
Hmm.
happens when something of this sort happens, we expect the police to contact the head of the institution and say, look, one of your students is out of line. Please, do something about it. And then the university kicks in and says, look, this is offensive. We have our own internal mechanisms to deal with this particular problem. And I wish I think she was a student of Pune Law University. I never knew such a institution exists. They should have contacted the head of the institution and said, please, there's something on. Bring this person in line, because if you don't, then we have to do certain things about it. This is generally how police work with institutions, autonomous bodies like the universities. And this is how students are basically, brought in line. Unless, of course, she had indulged in criminal behavior outside the university premises, in which case, of course, the police have to come in anyway. But this is something that should have been resolved within the institution itself, within the university itself. Jay, I think you should come in now.
Hi, Professor. I agree with what you're saying. I think this is, let's look at a few facts. Pallavi, is that your phone that's going off? Would you like to mute yourself,
No,
please?
no, it's not mine. Must be Advaita. Oh, no, she's on mute. Go
So
ahead.
probably yours.
It's not mine either.
So let's look at the facts, right? I mean, this is a really serious issue. This is a 22-year-old girl. She's a law student at Symbiosis, Pune. She's put out some YouTube reel in which she's, I don't approve of her language at all. I think it's quite vile, it's quite crass. And she's made certain disparaging remarks about a very important religious figure to a religious community. These are the facts as they stand. Now, they've booked her under 4 sections, right? This is really important to understand. Now, the sections are 196, 1A, 299, 352, 353, 1C. These are the 4 sections. According to me, only one section is applicable, that is 299, which is a maximum punishment of 3 years. Now, insofar as the other sections are concerned, this is classic overkill by the state of West Bengal. Overkill, right? This is an over-enthusiastic, aggressive prosecution. And let's call it what it is. The idea here is to appease a particular vote bank. They want to, Mamata Banerjee perhaps wants to appease, do Muslim appeasement. It's very clear. There's an election coming up. And which is why such an unnecessarily aggressive prosecution has been launched against this young girl. And these other sections that I was mentioning to you, other than 299, which according to me are not applicable, talk about intentional insult with an intent to provoke the breach of peace. Now, unless the prosecution in Bengal, the prosecutors, the police are able to really establish that there has been a breach of peace, or that she had this, some intention to breach the peace or to create enmity between religious groups in Bengal, unless that is, there's very strong evidence to show that there was no reason to book her under those additional sections. This has just been done, according to me, for vote bank politics. This is what it is. That's the short point. But yes, to be fair, what she said, I mean, she's insulted the Prophet Muhammad, and I think that was very unnecessary. That's not on. There was no need to do that, and that is punishable, according to me, to be very fair, under 299. But again, there was no need to arrest her, because this is still, I mean, she's not, I mean, her taking her into custody right now cannot be some substitute for a trial and therefore punishment. There was no need to take her into custody at all. It's completely unnecessary. The idea is to bully her, and as Professor Sengupta, as Professor very rightly said, the idea is to send a very strong, nasty message to all students that, look, you try something funny, you say something funny, we'll put you behind bars, so keep quiet. That's the idea. It's a menacing message. And to send police across state lines, first to Maharashtra and then to Gurgaon, it's just not on. She's a 22-year-old girl. Who was she a threat to? She's also put out an apology. She said that she made a mistake. What she said was foolish. The matter should have been, ended there. And as Professor Sengupta very rightly says, that at most you could have sent a communication to the dean of the university and sort of, put it on a record that this, she indulges in this filth online. But there was absolutely no need to arrest her in this manner. And that takes me back to the comments of one of the TMC's very celebrated members of parliament, who said something about India turning into North Korea and Nazi Germany and so on. The fact is that today Mamata Banerjee's Bengal is Nazi Germany, and it is absolutely North. It's worse than North Korea. Okay. And I'll tell you why it's worse than North Korea. And this brings me to my final point. There are at least 4 judgments of the Supreme Court, right from the 1980s, which make it crystal clear, which say that prosecution, there can be no bias in prosecution. When state police applies a law, it has to be applied equally across the board. You cannot pick and choose certain prosecutions. In this case, it's very clear. You have that grotesque member of parliament, Shiny Ghosh, I think is her name. And she put out on social media, Shiny Ghosh, and she put out an image on social media with someone unwrapping a condom on a shivling.
That's an old one though.
Well, whether it's old or not, it's still on social media. It's attributable to her. And as a Hindu, I am provoked and I'm offended.
And she got away.
And nothing happened to her. Exactly, Professor. And now, the Bengal, imagine this, Bengal police does nothing about that. And you have then, of course, Mamata Banerjee herself, I believe, addressing a rally somewhere. And she said something about Ganda Dharam, referring to Hinduism, to Sanatan Dharam. She said, ye Ganda Dharam hai, something to that effect. Now, when you have a state police and, a department of prosecution that, applies the law, as per the season of the day and, what they feel, whatever their mood is, they apply it in that manner. That's not on. So according to me, the state of Bengal is in contempt of the Supreme Court itself in applying the law as selectively as they are applying it. And everybody can see through it. This is appeasement politics. I know there's so many friends of mine who are Muslims. Of course, all of us think that what she, the way she speaks, this girl, and what she said, it's not acceptable. But nobody in their right mind would have said that. She's a young girl, you arrest her, you take her across, terrorize her by taking her across state lines in police custody. This is not on. This is not the India that we know. There was no need for it. And the last thing, the alternative, what is the devil's argument? Well, if someone were to counter this and say, well, then how do you prosecute this girl? Well, if she hadn't joined proceedings, then you declare her, there's a provision under the CRPC where you declare her a proclaimed offender. No. Trial could have proceeded without her if she chooses not to join trial. I'm not saying that she should not be prosecuted. By all means. And certainly these 4 sections that they've put against her, I'll be very surprised how many are actually framed against her. Because there's no material to suggest that she was trying to intentionally insult, to provoke, to create a breach of peace. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I think this is very, very sad. A sad day for us as a country. Going after some irrelevant.
But this point which Karthi made, about,
yes,
multi-state thing, I find that so correct. She's a law student in Pune, lives in Gurugram. Case was filed in Kolkata. She was taken to Alipur court in Bengal.
I don't agree with I don't agree with Karthi Chidambaram on this. And I respect him for a lot of other things. He says he's been talking he speaks a lot of sense. Especially off late, and which is perhaps why he doesn't get along with the leadership of his own party now. But on this point, I don't agree with him. And it's not an ideological difference, but it's on law. If there is a warrant that has been executed by a particular court, unless you change the law, there's no question. The police is required to go and to execute that warrant. But the question that we should ask is, what is there? Are they as enthusiastic about executing other warrants?
Professor Malviya, why I'm asking what Karthi is saying is for a different reason. My point is that no one from Pune or no one from Gurugram registered that complaint. Someone sitting in Kolkata registered a complaint, and this is where the entire political angle starts coming in. This is where the whole appeasement politics kind of narrative starts coming in. So isn't there a problem area there? Doesn't this also need to change somewhere at some point of time? And can it?
No, Pallavi, you're right. Because if you see the organization that has filed an FIR, there's no individual, I believe. I believe it's some sort of foundation in Garden Reach that has filed this.
Yes.
And it looks to be politically motivated and connected. So according to me, the complaint itself is vexatious. And, the complaint should be analyzed to see, what the allegations were regarding breach of peace. What peace has been breached. And if it has been breached, after an apology has been put out, I think it goes to show that the state of Bengal, their police is completely incapable and inept, which is why there is a breach of peace on something like this. Something that is imagined being said in Haryana by some social media influencer sitting in Gurgaon should create a breach of peace in Bengal. What is this? What are we talking about? And some foundation has filed an FIR. So according to me, goals, objectives, motivations of the Bengal police are all messed up. And if you look at the amount of violence and the bloodshed, I believe just a day or two ago, there was some man somewhere in Bengal walking across town with he beheaded somebody and was carrying a head across town. I mean, what sort of beastly behavior is this? What sort of law and order does the state of Bengal have?
Can she get bail? Is it a bailable offense?
Well, yes, it is a bailable offense. Absolutely.
But Jay, let us try and explain the law to us on this. This is so, it's so messed up. As you said, the offense allegedly was carried out in Gurugram or Pune, and it is a complaint in West Bengal. The courts have taken cognizance of and have set framed charges. This is something that I just can't understand at all. Does the law allow for this?
Yes, I'll give you an example, and this will make sense to you. You know how some very powerful organizations, you remember there used to be this gentleman called Arindam Chaudhary who used to run some IIPM.
Yeah.
Right? And they would claim that they have some tie-ups with some universities in Europe and so on, and it later turned out to be all wrong. And they took money, all sort, hundreds of crores from all sorts of students. So anytime anybody would say something about them. So for example, if someone sitting in Gurgaon would say something about them, they would Arindam would go and file some defamation suit somewhere in some other corner of the country, because you can do it. You can invoke the criminal, the criminal machinery anywhere, the criminal system anywhere in the country, and claim that somebody there has been offended. So this is of course the idea here, Professor, is what you said earlier is absolutely right. The idea is to instill fear in the minds of any critic who will dare to say something. That is one part of the the sort of intention, and the other is it is 100% Muslim appeasement, because Mamata Banerjee, the demographics of Bengal are such such that she needs to do this to make sure that she wins in the election that is coming up. Those are the two basic facts, and everybody knows this. And the reason why she has to do this now is because of her own rather pathetic record of governance in Bengal. So even the Muslims are really asking, I mean, this is the information that I'm getting from there, that the Muslims are disgruntled in Bengal. They're saying that there's no economic development happening in Bengal at all. There's no investment coming in. Infrastructure is terrible. It's all falling apart. So now if there's grumbling even in the supposedly secure vote bank, what do? So you now therefore come out, you invent a problem, you look for a problem, and you come out and you say that, look, we are your saviors, we'll protect you. And see, even someone saying something in Gurgaon, we'll go and we'll prosecute them for you because we want to protect you. We're concerned for you. It's all bogus. It's a complete fraud. And I think the Muslims of Bengal are going to see through it this time. And they're going to be thrown out of Bengal, is my prediction. I'm willing to say.
See, I just to move a little bit away from the Sharmistha thing, this is something I really want to understand. For example, I will take a case of, say, an Amit Malviya FIR, which was filed against him. And it was done by the Congress party in Karnataka and in Telangana. In both the states, they are in par. And we know why it was done there. It was not done in Delhi, though the act or whatever was committed, it could have been done here. But I guess the Congress did it because hamari sarkar hai and court and all of that kind of stuff. It will be easier. Do you think that is also one of the perils of this cross-state which Karti was talking about? That unfortunately or fortunately or unfortunately, the political parties will use this to register cases in those states where they are in par, which is what, in this case, Kolkata police has done.
Professor, would you like to answer that? I missed whom she said about the case. Who was the case registered?
Amit Malviya.
Amit Malviya ke khilaf, the case was registered in Karnataka, in Bengaluru, and then in Hyderabad.
I believe Arnab Goswami and Amit Malviya both were booked.
Yes, and in both the cases, the Congress had filed it, and it was a Congress ruled state. So you understand where this
110%, because it is the prerogative of the state police to determine whether or not they want to go ahead and register an FIR in situations like this. And 100% it was politically motivated and therefore vexatious. But no high court in the country will allow such a thing to stand, and they would have come down heavily. I don't remember. I'll have to check to see what exactly happened. Whether the high court, I think the high court stayed it, if I'm not wrong. The FIR and the
they did. But this is very interesting. Like if I'm in par in particular state, like it's happened in the case of Sharmistha, I can, for political reasons, go and file an FIR, and then the court, orders ki usko arrest kar lo.
It's a terrible thing. It's selective prosecution. It's exactly what I was telling you about. There are these judgments in the Supreme Court. Gurdial Singh, in Subramaniam Swami's case, Bhajan Lal's case, all of them talk about how prosecution can never be selective. It cannot be arbitrary. It has to be equal. You can't pick and choose your cases that, okay, we will not prosecute whatever that lady's name is, Shayantoni Ghosh or whatever her name is.
Shayoni.
Shayoni Ghosh, how
She's a
disgusting.
Jadavpur MP.
How disgusting. I mean, and for Mamata Banerjee to pick a person like this to represent her party, she's unwrapping a condom on her shivling. I mean, what sort of mental sickness do you have to do this, and what sort of desperation must you have to pander to a particular vote bank? And I'm sorry, it's more insulting to the Muslims that that you have leaders like this in the TMC who think that they will pander to Muslim votes by insulting Hindus like this, or by insulting the Hindu religion and Hindu gods. I don't think any Muslim will appreciate this in Bengal or anywhere else in the country. It's an insult to them that they have leaders like this in Bengal. Sickening. Actually, and she should be prosecuted. And I think all four of us should file a complaint against this woman, Shayoni Ghosh, in Delhi. We should file it.
Oh, I can hear whether मैं कहाँ यहाँ जय मैं छोटी से औकात journalist given sermons yesterday on Twitter as Professor knows.
No, don't you have stories where there's one particular MP of the TMC who constantly keeps insulting you and keeps talking rudely to you? Yeah. Why don't you do something about it?
वो राजा है हम रंग हैं जय.
नहीं, वो तो अमिताभ बच्चन ने बोला था एक बार, and it was a facetious statement. He didn't mean it. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, ये डेमोक्रेसी है, सब इक्वल है, कोई राजा नहीं है, कोई रंक नहीं है. And certainly ये थर्ड क्लास जो so called लोग हैं, जिनको they're traitors to the nation, they should be treated as such.
Okay, Jay, you talked about the selectiveness of this prosecution, but I think it's also something more. It's also using strategic location of courts to prosecute people for offenses committed somewhere else altogether. That is something, I just, just befuddles me. Because, okay, the law may provide for it, but I thought somewhere down the line, the court should have seen through it and says, file the case where the offense has taken place or where the effects of this particular offense have been felt. In this case, and a number of cases, I see that, people are using locations of courts strategically. It's not just selective. You're right, it's selective, but it is also the strategic locations of courts that is being used to inconvenience the object of your ire. That, I think, is possibly far more dangerous than this selective.
I believe she is from Kolkata, Professor.
Gurugram, actually.
No, Kolkata. I think the story is she's studying in Pune and then she came to Gurugram to basically go under, from what I've heard.
No, she's in Gurugram. She was maybe she was absconding or something.
Yeah, she was absconding. So
but the complaint was filed in Kolkata.
Correct. And she's from there.
Picked up from there.
Yeah, and Gurugram, she was kind of going under the radar, which is also sad actually. For a young girl like that.
But can I
may
I say one thing?
RG Kaur incident में इनको कोई मिला ही नहीं इतने दिनों तक. यहाँ पे they go all the way to Gurgaon. Exactly. I don't understand, cops anyway. This is very pathetic,
No, but may I jump in for a minute? I agree with what Professor said. I'll just come back to that in a moment. But you're all so politically astute. Don't you think the idea behind this is to create a smokescreen and a distraction from the failings of the TMC government so far, in terms of delivering basic governance? And the idea is therefore to change the narrative by doing all of this. That is according to me the real idea. And there is massive Muslim disgruntlement in Bengal. Apparently, it is terrible. It's sending shockwaves to the party leadership, which is why they're having to resort to all of this.
Look, I think that's obvious. The question is, whatever she's doing, an alternative Jagannath complex in Digha, all these things are basically to deflect from a poor record of governance. And especially after Murshidabad, where she feels actually quite vulnerable. All this is part of that, no doubt about it. But her ability to do it, their ability to do it, and the relative silence of the so-called Bengali intellectual is something that shocks me. I thought I was beyond shock for a long period of time, but this pathetic silence of those people who Gokhale said, what they think today, the rest of the country thinks tomorrow. That unfortunately, I think is being led to rest firmly.
And have you seen Have you seen the guy who's actually filed the complaint?
No, I
I
have
think
not.
he's, na, Jay?
No. What about
I
it, Advaita?
I believe he's quite a rebel rouser,
I believe
rabble
it's some
rouser.
foundation. I believe it's a foundation that has filed a complaint, which makes it even more political, if you ask me, politically motivated. I don't think it's a person. I believe it is in Garden Reach. There is some organization that has filed this. Rashidi Foundation, I believe it's called.
Ah.
A member of the Rashidi Foundation.
What's the name?
It's called Rashidi Foundation, the Rashidi
No.
Foundation.
And what's the name of the member who's filed it?
Wajahat
I
Khan.
couldn't pull that up. But
Because there
apparently
is
it is this
something,
foundation that has filed it.
Wajahat Ali,
Wajahat
or
Khan himself is no saint. He's also used some
that's,
very foul language.
yeah, for Saraswati Puja, right, Pallavi? That's
Yeah.
the word we
Yeah.
got.
Yeah, it's
So,
going all over Twitter.
so then why is he not being taken to task for
No,
something
but
like
Advaita, you had the Chief Minister of Bengal herself say that this is a Ganda Dharam. I believe this is what was said at a rally. She said, "I don't support this Ganda Dharam," or something to that effect, which is where she's referring to Sanatan Dharam and Hinduism. So I mean, if it
really?
comes from the top, you have another MP of theirs who says that Ma Kali drinks alcohol and eats meat. Then you have another MP who unwraps a condom on a shivling. What do you expect? This is the filth that is emanating from this party. Why? There is a pattern to it. They are desperate electorally. Their fortunes don't look to be looking up in the state of Bengal. I mean, in the elections that are coming up. And therefore, all of this is being done now to, in fact, actually create perhaps religious strife in the state before the run up to the election. I think, according to me, this is an attempt to create polarization because there's a pattern to it.
But
But
this is a funny part.
the larger issue is, if I look at it from a sociological perspective, is that look, people are going to say these things. They say it about Hindus all the time. There are going to be people who are going to talk like this. Is the solution hauling them up and taking them off to jail? Or do we as a society and as a polity need to think of other ways of addressing this?
No, I agree. Pallavi, one thing, Advaita, you see, the fact is that if you look at it objectively, then anybody who basically publicly proclaims that he is against idol worship is a statement where I can take offense to by saying, look, in my religious practices, I do idol worship, and therefore your statement is hate speech. Now, as a professor, I know such a thing is ridiculous. But let us apply the law consistently. We do not apply the law consistently. If the law were to be applied completely consistently, and if we are all to become super sensitive to any comment, that we may not agree with, I think we are in for trouble. Somewhere down the line, I think we all have to sit down and decide where to draw the line, or indeed if a line has to be drawn at all. Now, I can make up cases for speeches that spread disaffection between communities. I can understand that. There are certain tests for that. But when it comes to posts like these, I think we are skating on thin ice. One thing is that the right wing has not yet weaponized the court system and the police system to go after people who actually say these things. If the broad mass of right wing and their organizations once start to reciprocate what the other side has been doing, I think half our social media users will land up in jail.
Yeah, but the thing also is that, forget right wing, even as Hindus, we're just not comfortable with doing stuff like this, right?
I agree.
To take people to jail for saying something. I guess we're just used to people saying so much nonsense that on some level we feel, acha theek hai, bol raha hai, bolne do, bol rahi hai, bolne do. We just kind of move on. Like Jay listed out those things which are frankly deeply offensive, and the way he says it, maybe, I mean, he is a good lawyer, so then one realizes just how offensive they are. But prior to that, I mean, we've kind of known about these, but we've not acted on it or even outraged on it really beyond one tweet, or if at all. So it's a problem, right, Jay?
Because the reason is, you're right, Advaita, it's because nobody's trying to appease us as a group. So therefore, there's no need to sort of take up these issues. I'm sure many people feel outraged. I feel outraged. And, one can't possibly say that my standard of feeling outraged should be different than a person of, another person. We all feel outraged. But do I wish that person should be arrested and hauled up in this manner and taken like this? No, I don't think that's necessary. But I do think that they should be prosecuted if it is a prosecutable offense. If it's an offense on our books, on the penal code, prosecute that person. If they don't turn up for trial, treat them as though they're a proclaimed offender, that they've run away. And then once you've concluded a trial and then a punishment is awarded, by all means, throw them in jail. How can you preempt? How can the process become punishment then by, you pick up this young poor girl, 22-year-old girl, she must be horrified, terrified. Her parents must be terrified. Her friends must be terrified. Look at the message it sends out. You say something and some leader doesn't like it in some other state, 1,500 kilometers away. Their police will come to your home and they'll come knocking at your door and they'll try and take you away. And I'll tell you something about it. And I must share this today on your show as to why I feel outraged. I must share this. I don't think I've ever shared this before.
Go ahead.
I'm a criminal. I'm supposed to be a criminal lawyer, right? I practice in the Supreme Court. I'm an advocate on record. I've been a government lawyer. I'm, fairly long in the tooth in practice. And a year and a half ago, some crooked politicians, two of them together, sent Delhi police to my home. Six policemen and an SHO were sent to my home on an afternoon. And they just barged in with the SHO leading them. And the idea was to threaten me, intimidate me in my own home, sitting in my chamber. For 5 hours, that person sat in my office. This is well documented. I filed a complaint. That complaint is out there somewhere. And they were sent basically as mercenaries. As the SHO was sent as a mercenary. And it's not even his fault. I don't even blame the cop. He was under pressure from these two members of parliament, right? And the idea was to come and basically hold a metaphorical gun to my head. And then he pulled out an agreement and kept it in front of me and said, "Aapko ye sign karna padega, aapko dabna padega."
Wow.
What are we talking about? And this was, a two-bit opposition MP who herself is, corrupt to kingdom come. She's a traitor to the nation. She sold her parliamentary credentials to a unscrupulous businessman sitting abroad who's abusing our prime minister and attacking a business house here, trying to link them. So everybody wanted to sort of profit from it. And they sent cops to my home to threaten me over a fake FIR, a fake complaint.
This is an interesting point you brought up, Jay, because I'm just trying to reimagine this. Sorry, I'm a writer, so I do get into these reimagined scenarios. Is that if it was a girl and if it was not a lawyer and two male politicians, or even a male and a female politician, sent cops to her house and the cops sat there for 5 hours and saying, "Sign this or else," there would have been nationwide outrage. But because
you frame it in a very interesting way. But I think it should be gender neutral, the way, there's abuse of power. But just look at it this way. Look at it this way. That this person who did this, what a small human being you would have to be to first threaten, use your whatever little bit of clout you had, which you think as a politician you possess, to first threaten some poor SHO who's doing his job, who's got better things to do, to first use your clout to pressurize that person, to threaten that person, and then to send him 15 kilometers away to where my office and my home is. Can you imagine? I mean, what a small human being you have to be as a person, how petty you have to be to do that to somebody. And of course, I'm a trained criminal lawyer. I gave him 6 cups of tea. He was fasting that day, so he didn't eat anything. And he sat in front of me from 11:30 till 5:30, trying to convince me that if you don't sign this, we'll register an FIR against you. I said, please go ahead. I can fight my own case.
No, but
then he's telling me that I'm telling you as a big brother that this MP is pressurizing me. I'm saying this today. I have no fear of saying it at all. I have it all documented. I have proof. I have proof in the form of messages from this poor SHO who had no choice but to act as a middleman broker for this corrupt two-bit traitor of an MP. I have it all in black and white as proof. And he had no choice. He had to pressurize me that here's this agreement, please sign it. I told him to buzz off. I said, I'm not going to sign anything. And ultimately, I didn't. And that she had to then, she withdrew quietly with her tail between her legs. She had to withdraw those fake complaints that she filed against me. Right?
But
I mean, so this is the sort. This is what Mamata Banerjee's ethos is. This is what her leaders are like. Where there's no prizes for guessing who I'm talking about. Right? This is how this party works. It's like a mafia organization. They're bullying people, threatening people.
Absolutely.
But I will say this. I held Mamata Banerjee in great esteem. But when I see this, and I'll tell you more, this crooked MP, I'm not going to take her name. There's no need for me to. She was using state police. Bengal police was being used by her to stalk another private individual. She had the CDR records of that person. She knew the location of where that person was, who was calling that person. This is what Bengal police is supposed to do. Or look at law and order.
Was she already
go
in
and stop.
parliament? Was she?
Yes.
Was the person
Yes.
already in parliament?
Yes, she was in parliament. And I'll tell you something more. When this information was brought to the attention of the chief minister and to the home secretary, no action has been taken. It's embarrassing, deeply embarrassing. Imagine if it turns out, you please tell me this, tomorrow if it turns out that in a BJP ruled state, right? Or if, in the BJP, some big member of parliament from the BJP were using the state police of a particular BJP ruled state to go and keep tabs on some person that, they had a personal falling out with. And to be clear, it's not me, it's somebody else. And that person also happens to be, was in fact connected with the state of Bengal in an official capacity. And this person, this MP, this BJP MP, suppose was spying on that person. It would be, and then these people have the audacity to talk about Pegasus, to talk about applying the law correctly, North Korea, Nazi Germany. I mean, it's a clown show. They're clowns, they're hypocrites. And in terms of intellectual heft or integrity, they are pygmies.
Zero.
This is what I have seen. And it's all on us. It's shame on people like us that we can't call them out and we can't take them on. We should take them on. They're the lowest of the low. And in terms of intellectual caliber, they're so ordinary. I mean, you could have them not for breakfast, but before breakfast. They're really ordinary. You had other people writing their speeches for them, right? Somebody else, as we know, was writing the questions anyway. So what is this second-hand intellect, the second-hand sort of approach to life? You can't do anything on your own. You live off other people. What is it? Pathetic.
Strange combination of the pretentious, shallow, and the vile. This
How
is
beautifully put.
amazing.
Yeah.
But Jay, what frightens me is the following. At the end of the day, you are quite a powerful man yourself. You are a man of influence because you practice in the courts. Generally, police are afraid of taking on lawyers who have some practice. I'm thinking of this particular girl. Initially, the police wanted police custody. She's sent to judicial custody.
Correct.
If the police were to get custody of this girl, what are the scenarios that we are thinking of?
My God,
Because
Professor, you asked such a good question. It's such a good point to make. This crossed my mind too. That imagine they were asking for police custody. Yes. What investigation do you think they need to do, with this girl? They would have probably used, the third degree, sort of methodology on her, harassed her to maybe send out a message that, look, this is what we're going to do to appease,
Okay, I think he's frozen. But Professor, I wanted to actually intervene and ask.
What investigation can possibly be needed? If the video is already.
Jay's internet is freezing. I don't think he's there, right? But Professor, this is a point. It's like he's saying the proof, so to speak. Jay's back. Jay, this is
I'm so sorry. I was just saying the video is already out there. What was the need for police custody to? What investigation are they going to do?
And she has accepted it. One second, Professor. Professor, 1 minute. And she has accepted it, apologized for it. So there's a mea culpa. So what are you investigating really? Now it's going to go, it should go to the point of, contesting it. And for that purpose.
It should go to a constitutional court, Advaita. It should go to the High Court, and the High Court should come down heavily on the state police, and they should quash this case and put an end to all of this,
I have a fair idea as to why they wanted police custody. You see, given that fact that she's already admitted her guilt, I think they would have wanted to link her to some imagined conspiracy
Yes.
where they would try to implicate other people, make it
Very
far
well said.
messier than it actually is. That is why
Correct.
they wanted police custody. They wanted names which don't exist, links
Correct.
which don't exist, and a conspiracy which isn't there. That is why they wanted police custody. But my mind boggles at the very thought of giving a girl like that, our age, to the West Bengal police for custody. That, I mean, after what I've heard from Jay, what they did in Delhi, in
May-
his
may-
office,
may- yeah. Sorry.
you know, these images in my mind are they
No, and
And
Professor,
so,
I will. I mean, I'll tell you something. I can't. It will be unfair on my part if I try and draw equivalence between what was done to me and to what is being done to this poor girl, because of course it's not even the same thing, and I can take care of myself. I mean, this is a young person. It's not about girl or boy, but young girl, poor thing. I mean, she must be horrified.
a
But
year or two out
even
of school.
apart from this whole thing, right? I mean, you said it. I mean, the idea seems to be, some nefarious idea to try and perhaps, link other people to try and bring them into this prosecution. And I mean, what's the point? And, in my case, I remember it didn't end that day. For 6 days, 6 or 7 days, that poor policeman must have given up whatever regular policing he had to do in the Barakhamba area, which is a, very sensitive area. And he had to waste his time, and he had to keep pursuing me to get me to sign some bogus agreement in which they wanted me to say that my dog's ownership belongs to somebody else, and where I would be given 1 hour a day to see my own dog. It's really funny. Can you imagine the member of parliament supposedly terrorizing a Delhi police senior police officer to broker and barter a deal over a pet dog, which she wanted to basically arm twist and take from me? And what sort of sick mind, disgusting mind does a person need to possess to do all of this? This is a sickness. This party seems to perpetuate that sickness, and it's about time that we give them the boot. And I hope the state of Bengal, people of Bengal, give us a solid bloody kick to all of these people and throw them out of the state once and for all. And finally, let some proper investment and law and order come into this state.
Oh, yes.
This great state. It is a great state, and it's a travesty that it's in the hands of these people who are ruining it
I
completely.
believe Amit Malviya and people from the BJP have come out in support of this girl, which also means that now it's going to enter the political realm, right, Professor? It's going to get very back and forth. And
It will. But the question is, what benefit does it do to the girl? You see, till such a time the courts come to a decision, and I hope they come to a decision quick, this girl will be harassed. Okay, it may be comforting for her to know that somebody is behind her. But as long as she is behind bars, her position cannot be a pleasant one.
Professor,
So-
can I share something
Sure.
with you? Another very interesting about RG Kar, and right after RG Kar.
Yeah.
And Advaita, you remember there were these protests that happened, if you remember.
correct.
And,
Correct.
and there's a case, in fact, that is going on where I think it was Diamond Harbour, which is Abhishek Banerjee's constituency. And 2 ladies were picked up from that area because they came on TV and they said something offensive. One of them said something offensive about Abhishek Banerjee's daughter. Nobody supports any of that. And I
Yeah,
believe
that's
some other lady in that video laughed. If you remember that case, that somebody else
No,
basically
I missed
clapped or
this
laughed or
case.
said something,
Okay.
right? They
Missed
were
it.
picked up, FIRs were filed against them, and get this, they were tortured in police custody. A writ petition came to be filed in the Calcutta High Court. And there is evidence to show that they were physically assaulted by Calcutta police in custody because, they dared to say something about who. And one other person was seen in that video laughing.
Jay, here I'm very, very bullish when it comes to children. You can't say things about kids.
No,
You
I'm
can't
saying that
bring
it's,
into
I'm
the
not,
mix.
I'm,
It's
no,
like,
I'm not
I
saying
mean, I
even
don't
for a
know.
moment what it was
Yeah,
right. I'm saying, please hear me out.
Yeah.
One person said it. I'm saying that even the person in the seen in the frame who simply laughed or gesticulated in some manner, even if I'm saying, even if they both did it, I'm saying if they both committed that offense of saying something vile about a child, nobody even for a half a second is supporting it. I'm saying it's disgusting. But I'm saying that Bengal police picked up both of them and beat them up in custody. That petition has been filed in the High Court. I'm trying to tell you, this is how the Bengal police is operating. So now link it to what Professor's pointing out. Why you needed that 5-day custody in the first place? What
It's
were they going to
14
do to that?
days.
Police custody.
I heard it's 14 days, no? She's there
No.
for 14
Judicial
days.
5-day judicial custody, but the police wanted her custody, right? I mean, they wanted
Okay.
her to go to police remand. It's exactly what Professor is saying. What would they have done to her then in that custody? Right?
But
They've beaten her.
Jay, just tell me, if she's in judicial custody, where is she physically located? Like, what do
In a
they
jail.
do in that?
She's in a jail.
Oh, in a jail.
Yeah, in the
Okay.
constructive custody of the court, but she's in jail. Her liberty has been curtailed. What the court could have simply done is, could have said, you deposit some bail bonds, get a surety, and we let you go. And when you join investigation for the next 7 days, go every day, sit in a police station for 3 hours and join investigation. What's the need to keep her in jail?
Yeah.
It's completely bizarre. It's ridiculous. I hope the High Court comes down really seriously on all of these people.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I think we should wrap this up
Yeah.
here. I apologize that I went missing, but I've been having technical problems, as you know. So it's been a difficult session for me to manage, but I appreciate that the conversation kept going. And really, I mean, like I started, like, no one's justifying what she said. I think it's vile language. And she does tend to use this kind of language in all kinds of videos on different subjects. So this is the way she speaks. However, seeing her age and the fact that these incidents happen with such frequency on all sides, it's very important that we find some sort of system of redressal which does not involve incarceration or traumatizing people to this extent, especially, a girl who's just out of school, a year or two out of school. I mean, it's just like we have to find a way around this, because this is just going to increase. And how many people are you going to actually be policing people for what they're saying on social media, or should you be actually going out there and catching the bad guys, right? I mean, this is
Very true.
where are the priorities? If you're sending like a full team of people across state lines to arrest a 19-year-old girl for saying something vile on social media, then what are your priorities also is also the question. I mean, your priorities should be female safety, especially after something like what we saw with RG Kaur. So I don't know what's going on, and I just hope that, she's able to emerge from this, because in the past, we've seen instances where people have lost their lives, where they've gone, like Nupur Sharma, for example. Again, something offensive was said, but that was also a response to something offensive said about Shivji. But on one hand, the person who was offensive about Shivji is roaming around and living his life. And she, as we know, was a rising politician and a young politician in the BJP. And she's pretty much just vanished from the scene. So, I mean, this is just, these things keep happening. So we have to figure out how we have to deal with this. So, but thank you so much, Jay. And
Thanks, Advaita. Thank you, Professor. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Jay. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
For this impassioned conversation. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Do like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh, yaar.